let folks in if I miss them. First off, welcome to the Leads panel. You guys have an opportunity to learn a little bit about some of our leads across the network. They came to arrive in their roles and some leadership lessons they've learned along the way. My name is Greg Pryor. I am the school director at University Heights Excel Center in Indianapolis, Indiana. This will be, 4 days, will be 9 years at Excel for me. So I've been here since the restart in 2011. Life coach, lead life coach, math instructor, so I've done just about everything. I'm happy to be here to facilitate this experience for you guys. So we have with us some leads from across the country. We have Carlos Wilson at Little Rock, Cynthia Williams, lead coach at Memphis. I don't believe Claire is with us just yet. And we also have Laura Fair, lead coach at Shadeland. Do you guys want to introduce anything about yourselves beyond that? Okay. All right. If not, that's okay. So we'll kind of jump right in. So curious, what skills have been essential for you all in getting into the current leadership position that you have? So I'll toss it to Carlos first.
The skills I would say would be one of a growth mindset, and it's kind of sad sometimes, but knowing my area and staying in it. I am an academician, and I stayed there. I made sure that if there was a conversation going on about academics or any conversation in school, I made sure academics was involved, and I took certain students that certain people couldn't deal with in the class and start working with them. But it's just a growth mindset, I would say.
Very good. Cynthia.
For me, because I've been the lead life coach at the Excel Center Memphis since we cut the ribbons and opened the doors. So for me, having initiative, I think is really one of the skills. Being flexible, and most importantly, I'm a risk taker. So don't be afraid to jump out there and take some risks, because to me, that's one of the ways to grow.
Very cool. Thank you. Ms. Claire, what skills have been essential to you getting into your leadership position?
Hi, everybody. Sorry I was late.
Worse.
Skills for me, relationships, building relationships, maintaining relationships, especially, with staff and leading staff, giving the benefit of the doubt. Problem solver, always having that teamwork mentality, and just being honest and vulnerable, and, being there for my team.
Very good. Super people. All right, Laura.
Pretty much what everyone else said, but I think being willing to step out of your comfort zone all the time, and even when you're just a coach, taking on projects, doing things globally for the school, not just for yourself, has a lot to do with success and being able to move up. I think also being willing to support your teammates and not make it a competition, but just everyone grow together. And when you genuinely and authentically do that, I think you will move up and you start living that way.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great example of that is mopping floors in a brand new building when you first move in. So. Awesome. So as you all have, as we've expanded our network, there are times where I'm sure you guys would want to collaborate with your teammates across the country. What are some things, some topics you would love to collaborate with leads on from other Excel centers in other states. Let's go, Laura, on this one.
I think from a coaching perspective, at Shadeland, we are getting ready to start a coaching certification and try to, like, coaches right now, we react a lot, and we, instead of being reactive, want to put a process in place where we're truly life coaching. And so there's things we're doing outside of the network. So we're doing some training and some certification, but I would love to, like, make that more global and get input from other schools, other states, be able to take it elsewhere when we come up with a plan and a way to do that. So I'd love, just in the coaching realm, to broaden what we do and do some true coaching from the beginning and motivational interviewing and things like that, instead of just putting out fires all of the time.
Awesome. Love it. Let's see, Claire.
Something I'd like to collaborate with other Excel centers in the national network is how we're responding to this new era of learning. It's very blended in nature, it seems like, where we're going. And LTs here in our network, we've talked about how it's not a detriment, it can be an opportunity to maybe fix some things that weren't really working before. And so it's really cool to collaborate in this Indiana network and, you know, by these ideas from brilliant people. And so the other national conferences that I've gone to and times I've been able to collaborate with schools in the country, I mean, just crossing the state line has a whole new perspective and a whole new way to approach problems. And so that is really super interesting to me right now. And I would just love to see how we can move forward creatively and efficiently and make education even better than it was before.
Ms. Cynthia.
So yeah, at the Excel Center Memphis, I'm similar to what Laura was saying. I really want to focus to grow the life coaches as far as being more than just putting out fires. I want to see the life coaches doing more group sessions with our students to talk about different topics, different things going on. Because my ultimate goal is to make sure our students are very well equipped when they leave the Memphis Excel Center to deal with whatever other life issues or things that come about. So just really broadening what the life coaches do at the Excel Center, really diving deep into helping our students with problem solving, conflict resolution, and taking it on a whole different level.
Awesome, very good. Just to jump in on that, so before we kind of shut everything down, Goodwill of Central and Southern Indiana was starting to engage in something called the Coaching Clinic. And it, again, kind of helps leaders adopt coaching skills to help coach their teammates. But I'm a certified facilitator. So Cynthia and Laura, maybe the three of us can connect on that, and I can try to hook you guys up with some resources so you can start thinking about, you know, is maybe that's something you guys are interested in.
That'd be great. Yeah.
Carlos.
I would, for one, like to collaborate with other leads on the teacher and coach relationship. I find myself a lot of times trying to protect the teachers, my teachers, I call them, from the coaches. I find myself saying, well, I don't know if that's what we should be doing to my coaches a lot of times. And it's just that being so far away from Indy, when you have a new location, you kind of, everyone has their own ideas about how things should go, or how, well, when the coaches go to a meeting and teachers go to the meeting, we bring back things that we like. And that's not necessarily what's best for everyone. So I would like to collaborate with other leads to find out how that relationship is and how to make it better, better fit for us, I think.
That's a great topic, and I think you would not be short on interest, as I've worked at 3 different Excel centers, and that is a topic that comes up at every location. Fantastic. So some of you have been in different roles within the Excel Center, and you've learned a lot during your time here. What are some of your greatest leadership lessons that you've learned in your roles? I'll let anybody take this one to start.
I'll start. To be flexible. Working at the Excel Center has taught me to be extremely flexible, and also that I am not always right. And I mean, at home, that was very evident. Every day I'm not correct at something. But at work, I was used to being right. But I find that I've been here since 2017, and I still don't have all the answers. So you learn how to fail fast, and when changes come, like I am a brick and mortar person. This whole COVID thing, has another way that you have to show your flexibility. So,
absolutely, thank you. Somebody else.
I think for me, one of the lessons that I had to learn after the first year of almost driving myself in the ground was learning how to delegate and actually trust my team. So I, not just professionally, personally, when I have a vision about things and how I see it, if it don't go that way, then I just kind of just like, okay, I'm just going to do it myself. Don't worry about it. So just learning how to really trust your team and know that they're professionals too, and that everybody brings something different to the table.
Yeah, huge lesson. I'm still working on that. 9 years every day. All right, Miss Laura.
I think getting very good at being intentional about finding out what your teammates' passions are. We have all the jobs we have to do every single day, but when they have something they're really passionate about, if you give them free rein to build that class, create that college fair, or whatever the scenario is that they are really passionate about it, they go above and beyond and create amazing things. So I've learned to step back and always make sure they're doing what they have to do, but what is it that really drives them, and make sure there's opportunities for them to be able to do that.
Hey, do I get to say ditto, 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 ditto? That's what I say. I really did write down very similar things. For me, it was when I began to lead instead of manage others. And that was a really, I'm still going through it, but it was just like that big giant light bulb, because we have these brilliant teachers and staff and that are passionate and eager, and it's a good thing, and we can channel it and we can use it, and it's all for our students. So that's been eye-opening for me, to just sort of change my interpretation of my role and become a bolsterer and a facilitator, and not a manager, the way the title sort of implies. But so that's it.
Love it. Great reflections. If I can add one thing in there, kind of it's very similar to what you guys are saying, is that we don't have to have the answer, right? Nor do we always have the answer, right? And that's why leadership is not a position, but it's a relationship and accomplishing things through people. So that's good stuff to hear. Let's see. What is one thing that your site or your department as a coaching team or teaching team does really well that you think is worth sharing? Miss Laura.
Well, I'm going to jump out there and touch on a subject that was brought up. Our teachers and our coaches are very cohesive. And I think one of the things that we do that makes that is when people are doing the things they're passionate about, if there's a class or like the resilience team or something like that, it's not always just coaches or just teachers. We do a lot of crossover. So they're working on things, not necessarily just their job, but things that they're passionate about or enjoy. And so they're building those relationships outside the normal day-to-day stuff. So when the day-to-day stuff comes, we already have stronger relationships, and it shows. In crisis, and I think everybody jumped in, but there was no question you couldn't ask. So if a teacher was like, why are they doing it this way? They just say, why are you doing it this way? And we were able to work it out because we've been working together in other ways, separate ways.
Somebody else.
I have something to say. Hey. So what I think think we're good at, or something that I have enjoyed, is culture building, where I have had the pleasure, you know, Greg, of working in Indianapolis and understanding a culture and starting off there, and then going to Hammond, and then going to Gary, and realizing I had to be more flexible, because with each demographic, there's a different culture. We see that across the board. Even in Indy, Decatur wasn't the same as Meadows, and Meadows wasn't the same as Michigan. You know, even though it was the same rules, you know, general rules, it was different cultures. So working at 2 sites at one time for me was challenging, because where one culture was one way, then I had to go back to the next center and be at a whole different culture. Like, oh, dang, I think I like this culture better, you know? Not gonna lie.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Miss Cynthia.
I would have to probably do another presentation to talk about what I think they're good at. But one of the things that just stands out to me in regards to the life coaches at Memphis Excel Center is their passion for the work, which rolls over into their teamwork, but their passion for working with the students. Students could text them at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and they will respond. So it's just their passion for what they do. And as I said, it just rolls over into everything else that they do in the building. So they make my job as a lead really easy. So it's a great group of people to work with.
Fantastic. Carlos.
Well, as of now, I've had to replace half of my staff. I have 2 new ones that are about a day old, 2 days old, something like that. So I'll be lying right now if I say really well. I have some hopes, but as far as teaching staff, school-wise, one thing we do really well is communication. It sounds so small, and I didn't think it was a big deal until steps were put in place where everyone knew what was going on, when, where, and could kind of predict. You know, you could predict that, predict when the communication was going to go out, what they were going to look like, and I didn't know that was a huge thing, but I enjoy that. So that's one thing as a school that we do well here.
Love it. It's Claire.
Here at Clarksville, we celebrate all the time. You know, anytime we have an opportunity to celebrate or do an incentive, it's always a party. Whether it's, you know, Waffle Wednesday or holiday end of the term parties. We have a very diverse population. So we've had, you know, multicultural pitch-ins where we share food and learn about the countries that we come from. It's fun. And it makes the culture awesome and a place students want to be. So we've always been that way. I think that comes down from our leadership, our director, Licky Osborne. And so it's celebration. I mean, we teach and, you know, coach and that sort of stuff, but we also like to party. So you have fun down here.
That sounds like a good time. Here's some noise. My daughter joined me. So, all right, guys. As you enter this school year, what are 2 or 3 main focuses for your school or teams?
Just to continue to focus on the well-being of our students in light of the pandemic and everything that's going on, just making sure our students are well health-wise and mentally. Again, to enhance our student groups, which will roll into just making sure our students are good, and just expounding on supportive services, making sure we're on top of any and every resource that's available to our students within our community.
Absolutely. Very good. Somebody else.
I'll go. Similarly, taking care of our students was on my list, and taking care of teachers and staff too. Obviously, working from home has its distractions, right, Greg? And it can be really overwhelming. I found it very overwhelming. I have an 8-year-old at home, and it was very stressful. You know, I was irritable. You know, it wasn't good. It wasn't me. And so, you know, when my staff, when my team took care of me, I knew this was something that that needed to be for all of us. So taking care of teachers, staving off the overwhelmingness, you know, being super flexible. Nothing is, you know, so written in stone that it's going to cost you your job or cost you your diploma. This is, you know, a time to be in it together. And also, the third thing on my list was trying to keep in mind the things that we learn from this about how we do education going forward. So taking care of each other, but also taking note on how it's better than before.
Amen. Taking care of students and staff. Love it. All right, Laura.
The same things, but I think this is a term of building on the things we built last term. We had to scramble to do it, and it's amazing what everyone accomplished. So now stepping back and going, okay, this hybrid version of it, or however we're doing it, how do we do it really well? And like everyone else said, taking care of everyone. Racial equity is now at the top of the list as well. All of those things we've been doing, but I think it's been great to have a moment to step back and say, but what could we be doing better? And I think this will be a huge term for growth, just building on last term alone.
Good. Carlos.
I would say credit attainment and student-teacher relationships or student-staff relationships. Just as everyone stated, this is a real extremely difficult time for our students, and our last term, the middle of last term is when the COVID thing started. So it was stop what you're doing, let's jump, and it was just that just make sure, just check on them, make sure see how they're doing, just stay connected to them. And now that we've gone this far, this is our new way of life now, looks like for a little while. And it's just now, while we're going through this, let's find a way that you can get something out of it as far as credit wise. So that's 2 or 3 priorities.
Thank you. Yeah, kind of in that same vein, what is something you guys have learned during kind of the reaction to COVID-19 that you think you want to take forward with you? Some of you already hit on that, but if you guys haven't said that, you can kind of expand on that.
Be prepared.
For us, little things like our coaches now have Google Classrooms for their caseloads. So we have easier ways to communicate with your entire caseload at once. And it became, why didn't we do this before? And whether they're in the building, not in the building, there's a place for them to go. It also, we learned trying to get people on technology was really hard. Some people didn't know their school email address. And so going forward, that's just going to be part of the process. It's kind of why we now have coaches have Google Classroom. They're going to learn that stuff just in their first one-on-one. So if we ever have to step back, they already know how to get online. They already know what their email addresses are and things like that. So always reassessing those things is a big lesson I think we learned from this is, okay, how do we improve on that?
And I'll go with the same thing I said earlier. I am a brick and mortar person. A smart board to me is any board that I write on. And when COVID happened, there was no brick and mortar. I initially saw no need for online education or anything like that. But now that I was forced into it. I think it's something that we should keep no matter what happens. If a student can't be here at that specific time, at that specific place, it still shouldn't X them out of the learning. They still should have access to the learning. That's what we do. So I enjoy the fact that if I put the learning out there and you can get it and you can get to me at 12 o'clock in the morning if I'm up, okay, if you can get to me, then so be it. But why X you out of that process because of the baby? It was weird because being at home, my kids were here. I have a 3-year-old that is terrible. She is absolutely terrible. And a 5-year-old, they fight like grown men. But anyway, so I'm trying to do my work and my kids are here, and it kind of put me where my students were. You know, it kind of made me, I said I understood. Yeah, I get it. But it made me, it put me into that place where I said, wow, I almost can't do this right now because she wants this and she wants this, and I have to actually back away for a minute and take care of this. So right, Greg. So it actually took me to a place where I had to deal with that. And having kids on the screen, I didn't do that, but I had to do that. So I had to actually be more sympathetic to what was going on, be more sensitive. So I would say the online part of what we have to go through is I would take it with me no matter what. I suggested to my school we go straight to hybrid learning. If you can't be here today, so what? You can get it anywhere. But that's it.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's talking about eliminating access issues. Like that's great. Very good. I think Claire is rejoining us. She got kicked out on accident. Miss Claire, back. It's okay. Okay. All right. Well, that kind of concludes the formal questions of the leads. I'm interested from the audience's perspective. Do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask of the leaders in the room? Free to unmute and ask those questions or use the chat function, and happy to help. I also recognize it's 3:40, so understood if there are no questions. Or if you have small people off screen.
Speaking of small people, I've got a question for Wes. How are your babies doing?
Well, they're still alive. As you can tell, it's quiet here. I chose to come into the office today, if that gives you any indication of my level of being done with homeschooling, if you can call it that. But yeah, they all survived. They're alive.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
At home because we're opening a new building and starting on Monday we have Wi-Fi. So yeah.
Been there.
To be flexible. I mean that's I call it broken after 9 years, but flexible is a good way to say it too. Any other questions that you guys might have for leaders in the room, myself included, happy to share anything you guys might have. I'm sure Laura would jump in. Nope, just kidding. All right, well, I think that's a good wait time. I've made eye contact with all of you, even though you can't tell. I don't see anything in the chat pod, so I think that concludes our session here. But thank you to our panelists for sharing your wisdom and insights about being a lead at the Excel Center across the network, and thank you folks for tuning in, and hopefully you took something with you. Laura, do we know if will there be links to the recorded sessions, you know?
Yeah, I think that Katie plans to send all of that out or upload it to the app, one or the other, or both later on today.
Awesome. All right. You're good. Well, folks, be well. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your staff, your students, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Bye. Thanks, Greg.
See you later.